freaking Ewoks. Return of the Jedi is episode 6 of Star Wars. This time around, it's kind of just continuing from Empire Strikes Back. Vader's still looking for Luke in order to turn him to the dark side. The Emperor is there. They're rebuilding the Death Star. Things are looking good for the Empire because they're pretty sure that when Luke comes around, he's going to turn to the dark side. Especially because he's walking in, and the first time you see him, he's wearing black. Just like the last time you saw Anakin. When he was a Jedi, he was wearing black. So he's following in his father's footsteps before he became Darth Vader. But will he himself become Darth Luke? Some people love this movie. Some people just think it's okay. I think it's a good movie, but I don't think it's the best. There's a couple of main reasons for that, mainly speaking the Death Star. The title credits talk about this ultimate weapon that they've been creating that's going to be more powerful than the Death Star. However, what they're building is just the Death Star again, instead of creating a new ultimate weapon, which feels not very remarkably original. Also, I'm not a fan of the Ewoks. So let's get into it. First up is the people category. This goes over the acting, characters, casting, importance, and chemistry, all of which gets perfect points except for characters because of the Ewoks, who, in my opinion, are just bad characters. Sure, you're going to remember them, but they're going to be infamous because you don't like them. For me, it's not just the fact that they're annoying, it's also the fact that their cuteness doesn't really fit well with what I envision Star Wars to be. So that gets half points. Everything else is pretty much exactly what you would expect from Star Wars, so it gets perfect points. The acting is pretty well done all around, just like in Empire Strikes Back, although I think the acting was a little bit better in Empire. Casting, I think for the most part, the casting is done really well here, so that's great. The importance of everybody, much like what you normally expect from Star Wars. In chemistry, you know what? Everybody works pretty well together. Full points there. The people category gets 9 out of 10 possible stars. Next up, we're looking at the writing category, which goes over the dialogue, the balance of the film, the depth of the story, originality, and how interesting it is. All of which gets perfect points, except for the originality and how interesting it is. Originality gets docked a little bit because of the fact that they brought back the Death Star. But I took to Twitter to release some of my frustrations by saying, if a big portion of Rogue One was about explaining where the Death Star gets all its firepower from, a place they then destroyed with said Death Star, and then they destroyed the Death Star in A New Hope, where did it get its power again for Return of the Jedi? I have to dock it points for originality, because at the end they have to destroy it again. Interesting, I think for the most part it is an interesting movie, however, I'm always sucked out of the movie every time an Ewok appears because it's not interesting. I don't think there's anything interesting about the Ewoks. They take me out of it because they don't feel like Star Wars. They just feel cutesy and like they're comedic relief. But we already have comedic relief. It's called C-3PO and R2-D2. Half points here. Everything else gets perfect points. This has memorable dialogue. It's a trap! The balance of the film is pretty much what I'm looking for in a Star Wars movie. Just like with Empire, there are 3 planets and something happening in space. So balance is fine. The depth of the story, of course, has to do with Luke's problematic feelings towards Darth Vader, so there's enough depth in the story to get perfect points there. The writing category gets 8 out of 10 possible stars. The BTS category goes over the visuals, directing, editing, advertisement, and music and sound, all of which gets perfect points except for the visuals. For the most part, the visuals were fine. However, I feel like they were noticeably bad, more so than in Empire. It was on the level of A New Hope when it comes down to the CGI stuff being in your face, especially when they threw in a new musical number with a bunch of CGI. It was so bad. And of course, there are some problems with some green screen, and I have to give this at least half points. Everything else is fine. The director did a good job telling a conclusive story to a beloved trilogy. The editor helped the director in making that vision become a reality. It was as advertised, no advertising problems there. It was perfect. And of course, the music and sound. Star Wars music is amazing. The BTS category gets 9 out of 10 possible stars. The narrative arc category goes over the introduction, inciting incident, obstacles, climax, and falling action, all of which gets perfect points. 10 out of 10 possible stars for narrative arc. Entertainment category goes over how rewatchable the movie is, how much of a good time you have while watching, your impulse to buy it, your impulse to talk about it, and if it sucks the audience in. First and foremost, I do consider this a rewatchable movie. I've rewatched it multiple times, though I will say that it's probably the movie I've seen the least amount of. However, I have seen it multiple times, and I will probably see it multiple times to come. Full points there. Did I have a good time while watching it? Did I have a fun experience? For the most part, yes, but because of the Ewoks, no, so that gets half points. Do I have an impulse to buy it or own it? Yes, this is another one of those movies that I would buy independently. Return of the Jedi, one of the classic Star Wars. Yes, I want to buy it. Do I have an impulse to talk about it? I think there's discussion-worthy elements of the film, but nothing else. So that gets half points, and will it suck the audience in? Yes and no. Like I said with fun experience, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. There is, that will suck you in. However, with the Ewoks, so that gets half points. So the entertainment category gets 7 out of 10 possible stars. Special category. Now these are the 5 questions that I wanted it to be answered before I saw the movie. First and foremost, how does this feel as a Star Wars movie? It feels great. It does feel like Star Wars. What can I say? It's one of the classics. 10 out of 10 possible stars. As a sequel, does it add anything new, and does it need to be made? Of course, it adds not only the Ewoks, but it also adds the Emperor's present. And did it have to be made? Of course, it needed to finish the story that specifically The Empire Strikes Back introduced. So 10 out of 10 possible stars for that. As an action film, definitely lots of action, as per usual with all of these Star Wars movies, so 10 out of 10 possible stars for that. As an adventure film, like I said, those 3 planets and everything that's going on in space, perfect, 10 out of 10 possible stars for that. And is it halfway decent? Of course it is. I'm not gonna blame the Ewoks because, technically speaking, that's what they wanted to be made in the movie. So I think for the most part, they made the movie that they intended to make from the get-go. And that does deserve praise. So 10 out of 10 possible stars for that. Now, if we add up everything, we get 93 out of 100 possible stars. 93% for Return of the Jedi. Guys, tell me what you thought of Return of the Jedi in the comments down below. And for YouTube, you know you can subscribe and hit that like button and hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. But until then, guys, peace out and have a good day.